Admiral, radar shows that we have liberals approaching at 3 o'clock, and libertarians at 9 o'clock, and conservatives at 6 o'clock. They're coming from every angle, every viewpoint. Oh, it's Political Radar with your hosts, Rhonda and Elliot.
Hey, all you political junkies. Welcome to Political Radar, the best 30 minutes of unscripted, uncensored political talk you will hear all day. Hello.
Oh, am I on?
You're on.
So we're at episode 7, and we have the esteemed People's Watchdog, Mr. Scott Williams.
Greetings from Howard.
Thanks for coming in, Scott.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, do we want to get right into our topics? I've a bunch of bullet points. So, do we want to start with the one that I have a press release sitting right in front of me on?
I will first say that I've listened to your podcast a few times. I'm very impressed. I'm glad to see you guys doing this. I think the community needs to hear some new voices and some new formats. And so I'm one reason why I'm here is because I think it's working well. It serves a good purpose in the community. So I appreciate the invitation, and I'm glad you guys are spending the time to do this.
I already can't wait to have you back. We're not even done.
Thanks for the love.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into it. So I have this press release that you put out May 2nd, and it says state regulators commit to review new controls on nuisance Sanimax Plant.
Sanimax Pew.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I was a candidate for Brown County Board in this most recent election up in the village of Howard in District 23, where I live and have lived for many years, but I've never really been involved in politics before because I worked at the newspaper, the Green Bay Press-Gazette. But that ended about a year ago, and I decided to make a run for county board. And it was a lot of fun, very exhilarating. I didn't win the election. I lost my election in April.
You worked really hard, though. You really did.
Well, everybody worked very hard, but yeah, I did. Thank you. But I didn't win the election. But during the campaign, as I'm knocking on doors, I'm walking around my district in the village of Howard, and I'm meeting people, and I'm engaging with people, and we're talking about issues. And this issue really came to me. I had never planned to make it part of the campaign for county board, but I started hearing from people. I mean, obviously, I knew about Sanimax. You can't live in the Green Bay area and not know about this factory over here. It's in the village of Howard. Some people think it's on the west side of Green Bay. It's right near the border. It's in Howard. And it's been there forever. I want to say like 100 years. It's been there in various forms under different ownership. And what they do right now smells really bad. I think it's what they've always done.
What's happening at Sanimax?
What they do, It's gross.
Can you tell us though?
They take animal parts. And I don't know exactly. So if I say things a little wrong, forgive me. But I think when butcher shops gut animals, this is gross. All the spare parts go to a place like Sanimax. All the parts that aren't going to end up on the grocery store shelves or used other ways. All the waste goes to a place like Sanimax, and then they have some process called rendering, where they take this material and they convert it to some of the really bizarre commercial consumer uses that you wouldn't even think about, like laundry detergent and stuff like that.
Wow.
I don't know how it happens, but it's a process that's, I think they process it using high heat. I don't know exactly what goes on in there, but anybody who's driven by this place or walked past it or has to live in the neighborhood, they know it's there because it stinks. And I knew about it, of course, but I also knew that it had been there forever. And, it employs a lot of people. And the local government had made an attempt at addressing the odor issue before. And so I didn't really think it was going to be an issue. It's an issue. People who live in that area still have to live with this. As I got into those neighborhoods, I could smell it myself more and more as I was campaigning. I'm like, holy cow. I mean, this is raunchy. And I started hearing from people. They're like, okay, you're running for county board. What are you going to do about Sanimax? You're running for county board. What can you do about the Sanimax issue? And I started hearing from people that this is a real quality of life issue, much more than it should be in the 21st century, when we can control our industry and, allow them to be industry without ruining the quality of life for their neighbors. People were telling me, when the wind is blowing in a certain direction and on a nice summer day, I got to slam my windows shut and stay inside. My kids can't play outside. We can't have a backyard barbecue. We can't even hang our laundry on the line in the summer and let the clothes dry outside because by the time they're dry, they come inside, they smell like Sanimax.
What's been done? Has anything been done in the past at all?
I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know the whole history of it. I know in the past, the county has attempted to work with Sanimax, has attempted to address the issue. I think Sanimax has at least made overtures towards working on the issue. But and that's why I thought when I got into my county board campaign, I didn't really think it was an issue because I know that efforts have been made in the past, but it's an issue. And so I started looking into it. And I realized, as a county board supervisor, I would have an opportunity to do something about it. I started making some phone calls. My first phone call was to the manager of the Sanimax plant. And I reached out to him and I said, look, I don't know if I'm going to win this election, but I'd like to work on this issue. I'd like to try to help you fix this problem with your neighbors. I'd like to try to help your neighbors get a quality of life that's reasonable. And especially if I win the election, I think I'm going to go to bat on this issue. So long story short, he didn't. I guess he didn't like the sound of that because I couldn't even get the guy to meet me for coffee. Asked him if I could come take a look at the plant and learn a little bit more about what they're doing. Nope, no way. Nobody from the public gets inside there. They have this fortress mentality that is so counterproductive and so scary that I'm not sure how to deal with it. But I reached out to the county. I reached out to the state. It turns out the county has some leverage, but the real leverage is at the state because Sanimax does have a permit from the state to do pollution, air pollution, different types of pollutants they can emit at certain levels, and the state controls that permit. And I talked to the folks at the state. Well, the permit is up for renewal. It actually expired about a year ago, and nobody has been doing anything about this.
It's expired?
It expired
right now.
A year ago. Yeah, it's in limbo. Sanimax right now needs to renew that permit. The state has to go through this whole long process. They can have a public hearing if anybody bothers to ask for it. Nobody had asked for it. Nobody from the county, even as far as I know, even was aware that this permit's in play. We have an opportunity here to address all these issues, to fix all these issues. So I stepped forward. I said to the DNR, look, I'm officially requesting that you take action on this permit, that you renew it, hold a public hearing, and plug some new conditions into this permit to get this odor nuisance problem corrected once and for all. And I lost the election. I think some people at the county level have gotten, I got their attention. They're at least saying that they want to work with me on this. And so we're going to see what we can do. We're going to see if we can't fix that problem once and for all. It's a scandal that it's existed this long. It's a scandal that these people have to live in these communities or work in this area or even drive through it or shop there and deal with this kind of odor in the 21st century.
What's the status on the public hearing?
The DNR has, at least to me, committed that they're going to do it, and they're going to do it this summer, I think. So we're going to work hard to get the word out to people, hopefully, to the extent that it's an issue that people are willing to deal with and work on. Hopefully they'll come out. We can give the DNR a full and complete up-to-date picture on what's happening. And, hopefully the folks at the county will help. Hopefully the folks at the DNR will help.
So County Supervisor Jamie Blom would need to be a part of this, I would imagine.
That's our county supervisor. I lost the election to Jamie. He's a good and decent guy. I want to see how he works. I want to watch over the next year or two and see what kind of job he does. I've engaged him on this. He's shown an interest, and we've agreed to try to work together on this. So hopefully we can get this done once and for all, and we can all stop worrying about Sanimax.
Who's the state representative in that area?
David Steffen.
What does he think about it all?
I'm not sure the exact boundaries of his district, but he was the county board representative before he got elected to the assembly.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what he feels about this issue?
I really don't. He used to be on the county board, and I know he tried to work on this issue when he was on the county board. So he at least knows about the issue, and I'm sure he would be as helpful as he could be.
Okay, so there's going to be a public hearing, and hopefully you can let us know when that is so we can tell people that are interested in this topic.
Yeah, thank you.
So what is that going to – can we actually do anything there?
We can. Yeah, the law is very specific about what the state government can do with this permit. There are very specific limits on the type of pollution that Sanimax can emit at very specific levels. By the way, they violated their permit a couple of times just in recent years alone. But there are very specific limits, very specific conditions, and one of them does have to do with an odor nuisance. So the state does, as far as I know, have the flexibility to really put some teeth into this permit and fix this problem. And we're going to encourage them to, exercise that authority to the fullest extent of the law and find a way to persuade Sanimax to modernize that plant, fix this problem, and stop tormenting their neighbors.
What's the size of that plant? Like relocation, is that possible?
I don't know. It's a huge place. Their employment, I think, is about 200 people. It's a large place. It's been there forever.
Think about working in that place. Can you imagine?
Well, it could be like the smell could be outside.
No, it's what's going on inside. I'm not even talking about the smell, what you're doing.
It's not even inside. It's not even inside. One of the requirements is when these truckloads of this unspeakable waste arrives on site, they have to, under their permit, get it inside within like a 24-hour period. They can't leave it sitting outside baking in the sun. You can imagine how that's going to smell when you get 30 or 40 truckloads sitting there. And they violated that part of their permit multiple times. I've seen the records. So it's not even all under roof. But yeah, it's a big place. Look, nobody wants them to have to relocate, and nobody certainly wants them to shut down and lose those jobs. That's why I think it's imperative that Sanimax engage here, use this opportunity to fix the problem so they can go back to doing what they want to do, which is operate their plant, make money, and stop worrying about whether or not their neighbors are going to blow the whistle on them with the DNR or whether the DNR is going to come down and crack down on them. It's almost irresponsible of them to let this problem fester for this long and put the future of their plant in jeopardy. So I'm hoping everybody can get together on this and we can find a way to help that plant continue to operate without and still restore the quality of life that the people in those neighborhoods deserve.
So you mentioned that they violated the terms of their permit. So what happens then?
I don't know. The state cracked the whip on them. I've seen the records. I've read the reports. The state found them in violation or issued like a notice of noncompliance. Hey, look, guys, you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this, and your permit doesn't allow it. So the Sanimax responded appropriately and probably, at least said they took steps to make sure that sort of thing never happens again. And all of that hopefully is cumulative, and the DNR has a long memory and remembers this history when it comes down to deciding exactly what this permit should say. If they get a new permit at all, it's up to the DNR to decide. I'm hoping we can find a way to craft a permit that allows this factory to continue but also allows the people in the neighborhoods to live a normal life.
So my fear is that people just accept it and get used to it and are not complaining. Is there a process to get an official complaint on record?
There is. The county health department also has an odor nuisance. It doesn't have a lot of teeth to it, but it does have a process for people to complain, and people do complain. But you're right. People have stopped complaining. That plant's been there for 100 years. People have lived with it for 20, 30 years, and people have stopped complaining. It doesn't mean the problem has gone away, but...
well, it smells like it smells like your garage if you miss garbage day. It's a horrible, horrible smell. When
I'm sorry. It smells like about 1,000 garages.
Wow.
1,000 people have missed garbage day.
Okay.
I can't smell your garage a mile away, but we can all smell Sanimax a mile away.
If you miss garbage day, it smells pretty bad.
Yeah.
Don't do that. So,
So that's an issue that, even though I lost the election, I want to try to be of service, especially if the folks at the county are going to remain, asleep at the wheel. And if the folks in the news media are going to remain asleep at the wheel, and nobody's going to even let the public know, hey, this permit's in play, here's your opportunity to address the problem, then if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to do it.
So part of my problem with government in the 21st century, to use your term, it's hard to know what to do and what your actual power as a citizen is. So I'm on the Brown County Health Department website, right? That's what you said, that people should complain.
Well, that's where they go if they're, to complain, yeah.
there's a phone number for immunization appointments, and then there's a contact for the director of health, which I assume will probably go to a voicemail, and there's an email address. But as a citizen, I don't know what that is. I don't know that I feel comfortable calling the interim director health officer. So what I don't know what people should actually be doing, and I think that's the barrier. So I read the email response that you had on Facebook from county supervisor, and saying that there was one complaint. And
one verified complaint.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
So even more so.
Yeah, and that's so squishy and so meaningless. That means that at one time somebody complained and the health officer was able to get out there in time and agreed that there was an odor problem. That's a verified complaint. I think unverified complaints count. I think the cumulative effect of this over 20 or 30 years counts. I think, tell me how many complaints there have been in the past 20 years, and then we'll talk. And then even then, I don't care if people aren't complaining. It's either a problem or it's not a problem. And all you have to do is stand upwind of that place, or downwind, excuse me. And there's
every wind.
There's a problem.
I don't even know which direction is safe. When you drive around, just drive along 41, and it's right in your face.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell how many times I've had visitors from out of town, and I'm driving them down 41, and I have to apologize to them that my neighborhood smells like, oh man, it's unspeakable.
Okay, so I guess the real course of action then is to maybe show up or voice some support at this public hearing, right?
I think that's where we're going to either get this problem fixed or not.
So you want to move on to our next topic?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, because we're talking about, the power of, obviously people assume that they have, right? And that people should come out and complain. Well, but the bottom line is most of the time people do not have any sort of, they don't respect the process necessarily. Their local government has let them down before. So let's segue into a topic where I feel like at this point, the public is left in the dark. There's a lot of money that was just spent to pay out the corporation counsel at the county board level. The public, as far as I know, is not going, and this is taxpayer money, correct? That they received, or that
it's all
they
public
handed out?
money. It's all public money.
Okay, so at this point, nobody really knows what happened. They're not intending to tell anyone. It was in closed session, as we learned. And so now this woman has this money, and she's gone, and we have no idea why. So why should people feel that they actually why should they have faith in their local government if things like this continue to happen?
I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball on this one. I'm as much of an advocate for transparency and open government as anybody around right now. But as far as your phony baloney scandals go, I think this one is a snoozer. I got to tell you, you said it's a lot of money. Okay, to people like you and me, $61,000 is a lot of money. For somebody to be separated from their job and to get a check for $61,000, yes, that's a lot of money. But this is county government, okay? These folks spend $250 million a year. $250 million a year. They blow through $83 million in property taxes every year. $61,000 in that world is lunch money. So I'm not overwhelmed by the amount of money, and I'm not overly concerned that somebody got separated from their job and got severance. To me, that happens all the time. Private business, government, even at newspapers, you don't have to get fired to get severance. You get early retirement, you get a year's worth of salary. So it happens all the time, and I'm not.
But it doesn't happen with taxpayer money all the time.
Okay, granted. Yeah, by the way, yes, it does. But I granted it is the public's money. The public has a right to know what's going on. But I don't think it's a huge scandal that the county executive used his authority to write this woman a check. Obviously, something was going on. Everybody's walking around pretending like they can't see what's happening here. There was some kind of falling out. She left her job. I don't know if she left her job, voluntarily or what, but there was some kind of separation there. And, there's always a chance that we're going to get sued, whenever there's a separation of employment. And the county executive took steps to make sure we don't get sued. Trust me, we get sued. The lawyers get involved. For them, $61,000 really is lunch money. The lawsuit goes on for years. We could be paying millions of dollars to argue about whether this woman was, done justly. separated from her job. County executive has the authority to make this decision. I don't know what went on. I don't know why she left her job, but and I guess if the county board wanted to set up a process where they get a report regularly from the executive branch on who has left their jobs and why, there's nothing wrong with that. They can do that. But the way it's set up now, I mean, the county executive, he did his job. It'd be nice if there was a process in place so that we could account for every time the $61,000 check is written in county government.
Has this happened before?
I think
Has this ever happened before?
That it's been this public? Probably not.
Plenty of people have left county or government jobs in the Green Bay area and getting paid. I'm sure they have. I mean, the part that I find almost laughable here is this is a woman. I mean, this wasn't some auditor sitting in a little dark windowless room where nobody even really knew he or she exists. This was the top lawyer for the county. She advises both the executive and legislative branches. She sits 10 feet away from the county board chairman at every county board meeting. Nobody noticed she was gone for 2-3 months. Nobody thought to ask, hey, where's the corporation counsel? What's going on? Yeah. Nobody thought to ask. And all of a sudden, and the newspaper never detected it. The newspaper didn't know what was going on or didn't think to ask questions until 2-3 months later. And then they come out with this big front page article that she's gone and she got paid some severance deal. And it's a scandal because it was done quietly. That's the newspaper's word. It's done quietly. That's what they say when they miss a big story or where they're caught sleeping at the wheel or they're not paying attention. It was done quietly, and then that gives it all these sinister overtones, and everybody wants to know about the money. The county board, nobody noticed that she was gone. Nobody thought to ask questions. I think to me that's a lot more disturbing than the fact that somebody left their job and got a severance check.
Well, while that's true, like going 3 months, I don't know that prior to 3 months that really would come up. People miss meetings all the time for whatever reason. And maybe somebody would mention it. They would be, twice as likely to mention it after 2. So if
but she doesn't just sit in on meetings. I mean, she engages with the executive and legislative branch
She's
every
part of
day.
The meeting. Oh,
so for 2 or 3 months, nobody thought to ask, "Hey, where's the corporation counsel?"
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the newspaper is like, "Hey, where's the corporation counsel?" And so again, I think it would be nice if there was a way to let the public know about every time something like this happens. I just think it's being way overblown, and there are much bigger scandals out there, not the least of which is whatever the heck has been going on in public works for about a year, which is a whole nother topic that we can talk about. It's probably much bigger.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Well, it may even be related to what's going on with the corporation counsel. And this one has been discussed, but not until just recently, where, the Public Works Department, and I'll be as brief as I can. I think a lot of people have heard bits and pieces of this where a woman left. I don't know exactly what her position was. She left the Public Works Department about a year ago. She filed a bunch of complaints. One of them was discrimination, but then she also complained that about all kinds of misuse of public funds, of a misappropriation of resources, public works crews filing false time cards, billing the state for work that was never done, going out and snow plowing private property when they're supposed to be working for the general public, all kinds of nasty stuff that she says has been going on for a long time. And because she filed this little discrimination complaint, all of a sudden that gets locked away behind closed doors, and the county officials have to be secretive about it, and they can't tell the public anything about it. Meanwhile, the director of the Public Works Department and another top official in the department are mysteriously out of their jobs, and now they're filing complaints against the county, and they've completely told the public almost nothing. They've told the public almost nothing about this, and they're meeting behind closed doors on it. When I was during the campaign, I became aware of it. To their credit, the newspaper did do one article that touched on this kind of in a superficial way as much as they could. But I don't see anybody on the county board or anybody at the newspaper being as righteous and outraged about this scandal as I do about, the attorney getting a $61,000 severance deal. It just seems kind of selective. I think the public works thing has the potential to be much bigger. We have no idea how much money might be involved there and all of that. If this woman's allegations are true, somebody has to account for whatever amount of money was misappropriated, and it's all just being swept under the rug, as they say. It's all being dealt with behind closed doors. I sent the county executive and the county board chairman a letter during the campaign months ago urging them to come clean and tell the public what's going on, give the public some idea of what you're dealing with here and how much money is involved. And they pretty much told me no.
But they're not interested in doing that?
They're not going to do that, no. At least they weren't when they sent me the letter I got in response.
So is that a dead issue?
No, it's still live. They're still dealing with it. It came up just recently when they tried to appoint a new public works director. And then, to their credit, some members of the county board said, wait a minute, maybe we need to hold off on this until we learn exactly what this whole scandal brewing in the background is all about. And I can't say I disagreed with those folks, but they ended up in the minority. We got a new public works director. The scandal continues to kind of simmer in the background, and nobody is really doing much of anything to demand an explanation.
So is the local media done with that story, would you say?
I haven't heard anything.
I haven't either.
No, I mean, at some point, somebody will spoon feed them an update.
So what can we do to find out more
about that situation?
About that? Yeah, what do you want? What should I do? Who should I call right now?
You're not going to get any answers.
Okay.
I mean, you could go to my website and read what I wrote about it earlier during the campaign.
I did that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the windmill issue.
The poor windmill issue never gets enough time, does it?
No, but so briefly, the windmill issue. There's infrasound issues. Go ahead.
By the way, one more thing on the public works thing. I listened to your podcast with the county supervisor, Mark Becker.
Yeah.
You guys totally let him off the hook. Listen to the podcast. Right in the beginning, what does he say? You guys were asking him, why was that discussed behind closed doors? And what did he say? He said, well, I got together before the meeting with the county executive and with some other supervisor, and we discussed it. Before the meeting. Did you even hear that? Do you understand what that means?
Yeah.
Tell us what that means.
That means they're dealing with these issues outside of the public's view, outside of public meetings. They're not having it out in front of the public where the public can understand what's happening, where the taxpayers can know how much of their money is going on. Mark, what did you discuss with the county executive and the county supervisors in private before the meeting? What did you all decide? Is that why it went into executive session? Is that why no more explanation was given? These guys have got to come out of these smoke-filled rooms. I know that's trite, but they got to come out of these smoke-filled rooms. They got to conduct their business in public, and they've got to be forthcoming with people and be transparent.
No, are they allowed to do that though? If they don't have a quota, they can do that though.
I'm
just
not a lawyer, but you're right.
Right.
Yeah. It has to be legally. To be really illegal, it has to be
they have to meet
a quorum of a committee or a negative quorum or a walking quorum. There's all kinds of definitions there. And okay, maybe he wasn't discussing it with the right people to constitute a violation of law. We don't know that because nobody asked him, who did you talk to? What forum did you discuss
Rhonda.
it? Well, anyway, no, but that's just one small example. And even if it wasn't technically a violation of the open meetings law, come on, you're discussing the public's business on an important public issue and you're discussing it with other public officials. Do it in public.
But do you think that should have been discussed not in closed session?
Yes, I do. It should have been discussed in public. They already have a signed deal with that corporation counsel that she's not going to sue the county. Public money was spent. I would have voted no on that executive session. Let's have it out here in public. Let's tell the public what's going on.
So,
okay, the wind farm.
Okay, so I want to defend myself on that. Part of the reason that I didn't grill him on it more was I feel like we did spend enough time on it for it being such a small issue ultimately. So,
Yeah.
Only so much time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, wind farm.
Well, okay, this wind farm issue, it's been out there for 5-6 years. I'm going to say that I think it's a huge waste of money. And I did raise this during my campaign, and a lot of people agreed with me. To whatever extent this wind farm is making people sick, I don't think it's making people sick at all, by the way. I don't think at all, not one bit. I don't think people are getting sick because they live near a wind farm. But they made their complaint to the county. The county investigated it. The county did its due diligence. The county fulfilled its responsibility. And the county found that there's no evidence that the wind farm is making these people sick. I think they got to that point about 5 years ago, to be honest with you. Everybody talks about how the county health director made this big speech, a couple months ago. I think we knew much more beyond that, before that, that this was a non-issue. But it's just dragged on and on and on, and it's just a horrendous waste of money. They're talking about trying to get it going again now with another round of hearings before the county board. I think it's a scandal. I think it's an absolute scandalous waste of money. These people. I mean, if you're sick, you go to a doctor. You don't go to a room full of politicians unless you have a political agenda. And that's what I think has been going on for years. It's scandalous. The county board has got to, somebody there has got to have the courage to stand up and say, look, guys, this is done. We got to stop spending money on this. This is a huge waste of money. If these folks don't like the wind farm, I am so sorry that you live near a wind farm you don't like. But don't tell me it's making you sick, because that's a load of garbage.
And that's actually not something that, there are people that are on your side with this, on the board, on the county board.
There are?
I believe so. It's not a unanimous thing.
I don't know. There are a lot of people in District 23 in my county board district who agree with me on it, but I haven't heard too many people on the county board with the courage to stand up and say, look, enough is enough. Come on. I went to the county health department and I asked them, hey, how can I find out how much money has been spent over the past 6 years on this wind farm thing? Staff time, resources, research, meetings. How many hours and hours and hours of meetings have your $100,000 attorneys sat in on this ridiculous issue? And they said, that's a good question. We don't know what it is. It's significant, and nobody on the county board is going to ask that. They'll be all righteous and indignant about this $61,000 payout for severance to an attorney, but they won't dare ask the question of how many millions of dollars have we wasted on this wind farm issue?
See, and I try to choose my battles now, and Mark made it seem like of course there's a problem. Everybody knows there's a problem, and I kind of feel like Scott does. So you have, and I mentioned that before. If you have a problem, you didn't move. Do you have doctor bills that demonstrate this stuff? I'm super confused as to why it all of a sudden became like a county state issue, period.
Yeah, and the county health department has poured through all of that over and over again, and they've made they reached the conclusion. They're the science people who said, this is junk science, folks. Let's give it up. And the county board members, what did they do? I think one of them threatened her with criminal prosecution. And what a surprise. She's gone. She's moved on to find another job. And here we are still arguing how much more can we spend to shop around for some goofball expert who's going to tell us what we want to hear so we can go try to shut down this wind farm, because I don't know why they...
So I think it's entirely possible that some people have some sensitivity to something that's happening with infrasound or whatever. That may be true, but my first inclination, if I had actual health problems, would be to go to the doctor and try to get it fixed that way. It wouldn't even occur to me to go to the county looking for cash or whatever.
Yeah, and if it's a wind farm down the road, have your doctor go to the county board and tell the county board, hey, this wind farm is making people sick. I haven't seen one doctor do that. I think you just
gave them some ideas of what they're going to do next.
Maybe. Well, and to bring it full circle and wrap things up, the wind farm versus Sanimax, anyone with a nose realizes that is an issue. Whereas this wind farm, for almost all of us, yeah, maybe I don't even drive next to it, but if I do, I didn't feel affected by infrasound. So it's certainly not something that affects everybody, whereas something like Sanimax does. So for prioritizing things, I know where my priorities would be.
Hey, there are communities out there that would love to have a wind farm. There are communities out there that are clamoring for alternative energy developments because it's good for the economy. It's good for energy policy. Maybe we can stop sending young men and women off to fight for oil overseas. If we had more of these wind farms. And I'm sorry, I've heard the arguments. Wind farms do not make you sick. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's leave it there.
Let's quote him on that.
I think we did. So thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
I can't wait to have you back. Especially when there's an update on any of these issues we talked about. So that is Political Radar episode number 7. You can go to politicalradar.com/7 for notes on this episode. You can subscribe on iTunes. You can subscribe on Google Play. You can subscribe on, I think even on TuneIn for my friend Andrew.
Can I plug my website?
Absolutely. And
the campaign is over, but it's still called electscottwilliams.com. It's kind of in transition, but it's going to stay there and it's going to morph into something else.
So the best way to get in touch with you is through Facebook.
Facebook, I'm on Twitter.
Okay.
electscottwilliams.com has contact information
and on the
too.
website.
Thank
Okay.
you.
What's your Twitter handle?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
It's been out there for so long.
People can't hear you.
I think it might be GB Scott Williams, but I don't remember.
But you're on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter.
Okay.
That's cool. And I'm Elliot on Twitter.
At Sitnicow on Twitter.
And I'm on Facebook. Rhonda, of course, is on Facebook. I think that's it. We're out, right?
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode of Political Radar, please share it with your friends on Facebook and Twitter. Even better, submit a show review to iTunes or Stitcher. To listen to other episodes of Political Radar, please visit politicalradar.com/episodes. To support our podcast, please visit our sponsors who make the show possible. You can do this by visiting politicalradar.com/sponsors.
Thanks for listening to Political Radar. To ensure that you never miss an episode, subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. To stay up to date, visit politicalradar.com or connect with us on Facebook or Twitter.
This episode of Political Radar is brought to you by ReleaseWire. ReleaseWire is a powerful media engagement service connecting businesses to journalists and bloggers. If you need to get the word out about your business, ReleaseWire is an effective and affordable way to reach journalists and bloggers who are truly interested. And we have a special offer for you today. Submit your first on-demand press release with ReleaseWire and save 25% by entering the discount code PoliticalRadar. That's PoliticalRadar. ReleaseWire, from release to results.
Political Radar is a proud member of the Newsmakers Podcast Network, an ever-growing network of podcasts covering a wide range of topics. Check them out at npcn.tv.